What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the weekly Power Rankings. Recording this here about midnight here from my hotel room out in Tampa Bay. A little getaway this week. Before we hop into the Power Rankings here, please do hit that like button if you enjoy the rankings every week. You want an easy way to support the channel, do it right there. All right, so we have the Week 7 NFL Power Rankings here, and I think we're getting some more clarity on a lot of these teams. And I try not to overreact, but we actually have a lot of movement here, a lot to react to. But let's just hop in and get into it. Number 32, the Miami Dolphins, lack of movement there. This team is tanking. They're doing a damn good job of it. The 2-point aversion, as I've heard it called. Good job. You know, they played well. They showed that they can kind of compete, but they end up losing the game. So good for Miami. I do have them a tier gap below our next team here, the Cincinnati Bengals. They are very miserable, but they're not on Miami's level of miserable. They at least hang in games. I do think they'll get a win one of these weeks. I'm not sure when it's going to be. Maybe when they get A.J. Green back, or maybe they trade A.J. Green. Who knows? Number 30, the Washington Redskins. I mean, do you really have to celebrate this win? It's nothing to really celebrate. They barely beat a college team in Miami. I don't really get what we're doing with Case Keenum at this point. I would go ahead and put Dwayne Haskins in there because you might be picking in the top 3. You might want to pull your own little Josh Rosen situation if Dwayne Haskins doesn't prove to be all that. Number 29, the New York Giants. They competed with the New England Patriots. Daniel Jones, probably his worst start as a rookie. This team just isn't very competitive. So we do have a tier gap now. Those bottom 4 teams are really in their own level of bad. These next teams are just kind of sloppy teams that we probably don't know what we're getting on a week-to-week basis. Number 28, a massive fall here for the Tennessee Titans. They've scored 7 points last week against the Bills at home, 0 points this week. They've now benched Mariota. This thing is an absolute disaster. Have we seen the end of Marcus Mariota? I feel like they'll give him the benefit of the doubt. At some point we see him play again. It's not like Ryan Tannehill has a whole lot of optimism, but things here in Tennessee, as the Colts and Texans and hell, even the Jags are having pretty decent seasons here. Things in Tennessee have gone from consistently average to now almost train wreck bad. That defense is good, but when your offense is that bad, it just doesn't matter. Number 27, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're going to drop 4 here, mostly just, that was a very bad version of this offense. Jameis, showing that he's still old Jameis. And it's that game, I think, marked the official ending of the Jameis Winston era here in Tampa Bay. He will finish the season out, but he has officially proved that he is not going to change who he is as that turnover machine under head coach Bruce Arians. Number 26, the Atlanta Falcons. This is one of the worst defenses I've ever seen in my life. Just miserable. They literally can't stop anything. They can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. Their defensive head coach has let this defense get out of control. They've had a couple injuries, but it's not like something that you can really make excuses for at this point. Everyone deals with injuries. I am actually surprised that we got through Monday without hearing about the firing of head coach Dan Quinn. This goes back to when I thought they should have let him go to keep Kyle Shanahan, similar to the Kyler Murray, Josh Rosen situation. You just don't settle for average in the NFL when exceptional is available. But I think Atlanta is got to be close to firing their head coach. Matt Ryan actually has been pretty good this year, believe it or not, but it's just a mess in Atlanta. Number 25, the Denver Broncos. They've ripped off a couple wins in a row. That defense starting to look a lot more like I expected it to heading into the year. So they're hanging around. There's room in the AFC to stay alive. Same thing can be said about the Pittsburgh Steelers, +2, a big win against the Chargers. Part of that win was the Chargers just beating themselves, but Pittsburgh showing that with the really good line play, this team can definitely still compete, especially in the AFC. Number 23, the New York Jets. We caught a lot of flack last week when I ranked this team ahead of the Giants. I basically said that, yeah, based on the last 3 weeks, you can't really do that level-headedly, but looking forward, getting their quarterback back, this is a team that is very competitive, and that proved to age very well as they beat the Dallas Cowboys this week. And Sam Darnold looking like that generational talent at quarterback that I thought he was. I pounded the table that the Browns screwed up when they took Baker Mayfield. And after their rookie seasons, that was looking pretty bad, but that might be a turning of the guard this year. Definitely something to monitor moving forward. And the Jets, a lot of momentum coming off that win. And defensive coordinator Greg Williams is honestly one of the more underrated minds in the NFL. Really good defensive coordinator. He's kind of a prick, and no one really likes him, but man, all his defenses do are kick ass and take names. Number 22, the Arizona Cardinals. Simply put, this offense has become explosive under Kyler Murray. The number 1 overall pick has been exceptional. I think he's already making a strong case for being a top, certainly half quarterback, but at what point do we start wondering if he's a top 10 quarterback? And this offense looking really good. I mean, God, it's night and day compared to what this team was last year. No movement here at number 21 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This team, we know what they are. I mean, Gardner Minshew's fun. I still believe this is some of the best quarterback play, if not the best, that we've seen since this team drafted Blaine Gabbert, but it's still not like this is any explosive offense here. That defense did come back to playing closer to an elite level this week, but they have not been super consistent this season. So they're a fine team. They're going to hang around, but I don't see this resulting in much here in Jacksonville. Number 20, the Oakland Raiders, going to come up 4 spots after the bye week here. Part of this is just a lot of teams ahead of them just looking like disasters, whereas Oakland at least has some things going for them. They're 3-2. It's an AFC that's kind of wide open, especially that, I mean, AFC West, like they're not going to beat the Chiefs, but they could very well be a better team than the LA Chargers in that division. So simply by default of like just kind of maintaining some sort of balance here, the Raiders at number 20, higher than I ever thought I would rank them as this season went on. Number 19, we've got a tier jump up here. Just 2 teams are going to come in this tier, and these are teams that I think are still playoff contenders, but teams that have way too many things to figure out. Simply put, the Cleveland Browns at number 19. They are browning their way to a 2-4 season right now. They just can't really put any sort of consistency together, not just throughout the season, but within an individual game. This team does not have an identity right now. I fault a lot of that to Freddie Kitchens and also Baker taking a step back this year. Number 18, the LA Chargers. I mean, this team just can't play physical right now. Too many injuries, but that was also a problem heading into the year. You know, you take 2 of the worst, just bad offensive line, defensive line combinations, and you start picking away some of these skill players, it's gonna be a problem. Phillip Rivers is kind of panicking right now. He is not playing very good football. So the Chargers kind of in free fall right now. It's hard to say that like after this week they're not a bottom 5 or 6 team in the league, but they do still have a lot of talent. You got to expect at some point they're going to look better than they did on Sunday night, so I'm factoring all that in. Now we've got a tier gap up. We got a collection of teams here, the next 6 teams. These are all, legitimate playoff teams. Maybe teams that I can't personally envision winning a Super Bowl, but definitely teams in the playoff race. So number 17, the Baltimore Ravens, +1. They haven't had the hardest schedule here, and they haven't been overly impressive to me. But, Lamar's doing his thing. He's been a solid, top 20 or so quarterback. That defense was a little better this week. They're fine. They're in the clear driver's seat for that AFC North. And then number 16, the Carolina Panthers. Again, none of their wins to me have been overly impressive, but they definitely have an identity right now. That defense is awesome. Luke Kuechly's balling out. Christian McCaffrey playing like an MVP, was a little more quiet on the ground this week. They definitely benefited from Jameis Winston literally just sucking this week. But, the Panthers are 4-2. I think they have a bye week this week. I could be wrong about that. But at the end of the day, Kyle Allen is fine. He's still a backup quarterback, and I don't expect Cam Newton to, if he comes back, be 100%, but let alone that, I don't know if he'll come back, period. So just some question marks there with Carolina. Number 15, the Dallas Cowboys. Speaking about question marks, injuries have just derailed this team right now, and Dak Prescott, not the kind of quarterback that can put a team on his back and carry this team to wins. He needs those tackles. He needs Amari Cooper out there. Ezekiel Elliott is proving that he is very much just a replacement level running back. He does basically nothing that any running back out there can't do. So this team needs playmakers. I think they will bounce back a little bit. The defense being a major concern here. Byron Jones and DeMarcus Lawrence just not playing at the elite level they got last year. So a lot of concerns here for Dallas. Starting to look like a team that's gonna fall behind here in an insane NFC. Like, seriously, just picture the wild cards in the NFC right now. It's insane. All right, Buffalo +1. They had the bye week this week. I think this is a top 5 defense. It's an offense that's not very good, but Josh Allen can do some fun things. So Buffalo, I think, pretty safe for being a wild card right now. I think I saw their schedule is not very hard either. So I don't see them being a Super Bowl contender, but definitely a team I think that is going to be playing in January. Number 13, the Detroit Lions. I'm recording this after the Monday night game, and God, they got screwed. I mean, it did not feel like Green Bay won that game. Aaron Rodgers said it himself. Detroit's actually going to go up 1 this week. I think this is one of the beauties of my power rankings. I don't just look at the final score. I don't just look at the standings. Like, Detroit was the better team in this game against the Packers. Granted, the Packers had some of their best players out for injury and had just a preposterous amount of drops and a fumble and a fumbled punt return, but still, Detroit looks like a very competitive football team. They might have fallen too far behind in the standings at this point, but I'm going to still give them credit as a very competitive football team. Some tough breaks away from having wins against the Chiefs and the Packers this season when you really look at it. Number 12, the Indianapolis Colts +1 on the bye this week. It's going to be Dallas's incompetence pushing them up in the power rankings. Number 11, the LA Rams. It's time to panic. 3 weeks ago, I made the video about how their window is closing, and man, is it closing even faster than that with how Jared Goff is playing right now. If you haven't seen that video, definitely go back and look. It really breaks down how many problems this new contract for Jared Goff is going to present to this team that has been incredibly aggressive over the last couple of years from a roster construction standpoint. They're not going to have those freedoms anymore. Just like we said about Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, not the kind of quarterback that can overcome all of this turnover. So the Rams are in deep right now. If they're going to squeeze this into a window, they got to turn it around stat. By the way, there was a tier gap there before the Rams because the Rams and these next two teams are teams that I see as teams that are not just playoff contenders, but teams that if they can get a few things on track, they are legitimate Super Bowl contenders. So number 10 is going to be the Chicago Bears. I still think despite what they did against the Raiders 2 weeks ago, this defense can turn around and be an elite level defense. I don't know when Trubisky's coming back. I think that's going to spark some life into this team, even if he's not the quarterback that they really need. But, I think that could help a little bit. I love this defense. They can beat anyone at home for sure. Number 9, the Philadelphia Eagles, going to drop down 5 spots here. I mean, we knew going into the year that if this team struggled, it was going to be the secondary. And they've had injuries there, and guys that you would hope would play well just have not. Sidney Jones, Rasul Douglas, being forced into starting roles here have looked like AAF players. Just one of the worst secondary performances I've ever seen against the Vikings. It was an interesting matchup because the Vikings have that dominant receiving matchup. But, outside of that, Philly's a very good football team. They are dealing with a lot of health issues right now. Now we have tier gaps, a tier gap up to the top 8 teams. And these teams are all going to come in the same tier. I don't think there's a clear-cut number 1 right now. And I think all of these teams have a lot of momentum right now, have a lot of things going for them. So number 8 is going to be the Minnesota Vikings. We did not panic after they lost to the Bears like a lot of people were, and they have stayed pat and looked like a legitimate contender right now. A completely different team at home than they are on the road. That is why they're going to stay behind some of these teams. When Minnesota has to go on the road, I have serious questions about that pass protection, but when they're at home, they will beat pretty much anyone. Number 7, the Houston Texans. It's pretty simple. Like, you win in Arrowhead after looking as explosive as they did the week before against Atlanta. Granted, Atlanta's a terrible defense. This offense is rolling right now. I mean, you got to credit Bill O'Brien for everything that's going on right there, at least for this season. I think they might regret some things down the road. But with Kansas City looking the way that they are, and Houston's now beaten Kansas City, New England looks a little more vulnerable. Houston's starting to sniff more of that AFC conference champion contenders that I didn't really consider them a few weeks ago. So definitely stock up for Houston this week. Then we've got Seattle at number 6. This team is not a perfect team, but Russell Wilson playing the best quarterback play out of anyone in the NFL right now. It's really as simple as that. I mean, he just closed that game out. Drive after drive was unstoppable. The Browns just couldn't keep up. So when you've got your quarterback playing like that, you're going to be a contender. I don't love this defense at all. Their playmakers are fine. Their offensive line, not all that great. But this team just finds ways to win. It's really impressive. Number 5, the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, just to do what they did against the Rams without both of their tackles. Kyle Shanahan's so impressive. Jimmy Garoppolo just, pretty efficient. Like, he just picks up first downs. He might be kind of that game manager right now, and he does have some questionable throws at times, but he's just really sharp. He's accurate. He can elude pressure and extend plays. He's kind of perfect for what this team wants to do, which is run the ball, play action, and let that defensive line that is pretty clearly the best in the NFL right now just go to work. Number 4, the Green Bay Packers, and I really didn't want to raise them up. They did not deserve to win that game. I think you can also make the case that there was a lot of fluky elements of that game as well. You fumble the ball in the first quarter. You have a drop by Geronimo Allison, who does not belong anywhere near a starting lineup. Brian Gutekunst of the Packers needs to be ashamed watching his team play football. This was seriously one of the worst receiving performances by a team I have ever seen. The drops, no one getting open. It was just bad. Rodgers did everything he could to bring this team back into the game. I'm talking as if they lost because they probably should have lost this game. Lucky to escape with a win. They get the Raiders next week and then the Chiefs and then a bye. They are 5-1. And they're going to get Darnell Savage back as well, who this defense looked a lot different with him back there. It looked like one of the best free safeties in the league already as a rookie. So things are going to get better for Green Bay, and they are 5-1. But I did not want to raise them up this week. It was really just because Philly looked so bad. And this team is a lot different when Devontae Adams does get back in there. Number 3, the Kansas City Chiefs. They got issues going on too, health-wise. A lot of these teams just health issues right now. But at the end of the day, Mahomes has flaws. It's simple as that. He is incredible. His highs are higher than anyone in the league, but he's got a lot of lows as well. He's got some serious gunslinger mentality. The turnover rate right now, he's gotten a lot of turnover luck. No one wants to hear it, but it's very true. He had another really lucky game with turnovers here, and even then, the turnovers he did have really hurt this team. So, there's issues here in Kansas City. That defense obviously being the biggest one. I think this offense is only going to figure things out with Reed and Mahomes, but definitely concerns in Kansas City. They're not looking like the powerhouse that they did several weeks ago. And then New Orleans, they just keep winning. I'm done picking against this team. Even though they're at Chicago this week, I might pick against them this week, but this defense has really stepped up, and it's really impressive. That D-line is probably right behind what San Francisco is doing for the best defensive line in the NFL, but they have the secondary, man. Marshawn Lattimore playing like a top, 3 corner right now. They got a lot of pieces around there as well, good linebackers. And then offensively, they got issues. They really do. But I'm really impressed with this defense. The offense is only going to get better with Drew Brees coming back. I think Kamara might be a little beat up right now. He'll only get healthier. And then number 1, New England. They haven't been overly impressive the last couple weeks, but they're undefeated. They're the Patriots. You play who's on your schedule. There's no way to really sit here and say that they wouldn't be 6-0 if they were playing the Chiefs and the Colts and all these other teams. So until we see them lose, we're going to keep New England at number 1. So those are the power rankings this week. Again, guys, please do hit that like button. Also, check out the Fully Inflated Football podcast this evening. Normally do it on Mondays, but because of my travel this week, we're going to be on Tuesday. All right. Cheers, guys. We'll see you next time.